In early 2026, a silent but profound shift occurred at the intersection of Silicon Valley and the Pentagon. It wasn't just about technology, it was about the very soul of the state. The story begins with Anthropic, a firm founded not just to build AI, but to ensure it remains a helpful, harmless, and honest partner to humanity. They pioneered constitutional AI, a framework where the system is governed by a set of values, much like a nation's constitution, to prevent harm and deception. This framework ensures that as models like Claude grow in power, they remain ethically aligned, even when faced with high-stakes operational pressure. Claude, their flagship model, was designed as more than a chatbot. It was built as an agent, a system capable of complex reasoning and multi-step action. This reasoning capability made Claude an irresistible asset for national security. But to bridge the gap between a civilian lab and the military, they needed a secure conduit. That conduit was Palantir Technologies. A data giant with deep defense ties, Palantir provided the secure infrastructure to host Claude within classified networks. This integration created a direct access pipeline, allowing the Department of Defense to leverage Claude's reasoning without compromising secret intelligence. The real-world implications of this pipeline became clear in early 2026 during a covert mission known as Operation Absolute Resolve. In Caracas, Claude's analytical power was reportedly used to process ground intelligence in seconds, identifying key players with surgical precision. While the mission was technically successful, it exposed a growing friction between the military's operational goals and Anthropic's ethical red lines. By late January 2026, the Pentagon issued an ultimatum. They wanted Anthropic to remove certain constraints to allow for more direct military application. The demands were specific and challenging. The military sought to cross two major ethical red lines that Anthropic had spent years establishing. The first was autonomous lethality, the integration of Claude into systems that could identify and neutralize targets without a human decision-maker. For Anthropic, this was a violation of their core principle, harmfulness. A reasoning engine built for peace was being asked to authorize kinetic force. The second line was mass surveillance. The state demanded the ability to use Claude's reasoning to process bulk data on entire civilian populations. This would have allowed for the identification of dissent and social sentiment on an unregulated scale, bypassing traditional legal oversight and warrants. Anthropic refused. CEO Dario Amodei made it clear that acceding to these requests would undermine the very constitution the AI was built upon. The government's response was immediate. Anthropic was labeled a supply chain risk, and their access to the classified pipeline was terminated within 12 hours. This move effectively cut off one of the world's most capable reasoning engines from the US national security apparatus, creating a strategic vacuum. This leads to the ultimate dilemma, the accountability vacuum. In this new era, where does the responsibility lie when a machine assists in a lethal act? International law states you cannot charge a computer with a war crime. The push for autonomy is often a push to remove human moral and legal liability. Without a human in the loop, the framework of modern conflict begins to dissolve. A machine cannot feel guilt, and it cannot face a tribunal. While Anthropic prioritized its red lines, firms like Palantir continue to provide the infrastructure that makes these autonomous systems a reality. The question for the future is whether technology will be bound by human ethics, or if the state's demands will eventually break those digital handcuffs. The engagement between the US state and AI creators like Anthropic and Palantir is the defining ethical struggle of the 21st century. We are seeing a new kind of conflict, not between nations, but between the ethical standards of tech firms and the absolute requirements of the state. Every tech firm will soon be forced to choose. Do you build for the state's total control, or do you build for the preservation of human responsibility? For the developers at Anthropic, code is no longer just software. It is a moral statement, a decision to limit the power of the systems they create. The ultimate goal for some is an AI that can win a war while shielding its masters from the legal consequences of their decisions. We are building the future of our civilization on foundations of data. But if those foundations lack a moral core, the structures will eventually fall. Ethics are not a constraint on technology. They are the only thing that keeps us human in an age of absolute machine power. We must choose wisely. When the boundary between conversation and combat is erased, the only thing left to protect us is the accountability we refuse to delegate. Stay analytical, stay responsible, and stay informed. The engagement between the state and the machine is just beginning. Briefing complete. The data pipelines of the future are being built today. Ensure yours are anchored in human responsibility. This was your strategic briefing. Strategic Briefing, AI, Ethics and the State. Authorized by National Security Assessment 2026. Endeavor to remain responsible. Safe travels.